Good evening and welcome to Nerds and Night Gaming. As always, I'm Kit Thunder DJ, joined by
Fire 47,
Savina, and Shree Vondeliers.
Alright, and just want to welcome you guys back. We're still in summer, so we took last week off because there really wasn't going to be anything other than rehashing stuff we already talked about, and I think we picked a pretty good time to take a week off because there's a lot of things that have come out this week that we're going to talk about. We're going to go ahead and just kind of jump right in. First, we'll do, obviously, like we always do, if you're down in the Arnold area and you're looking for retro games that I don't already have, then check out Bojack's Games in the Arnold Plaza there. John will be able to help you guys out there. If you're up in the St. Peter's area and you're looking for good food or at least an education on good beer, go see Kyle out at Shamrocks. So anyway, big game that came out since we talked to you last, and I think we talked to you a little bit about it when we had last show, was Sonic Mania. That's been running rampant through this house for the last couple weeks.
Yeah, it's pretty much on many devices.
Yeah, we have it on the PlayStation 4 upstairs, my PlayStation 4, and then on the Switch.
Right. It is very fun.
It is, and I like how they've remixed some old levels. There's new levels. It's definitely done in the Sonic 2-3 style. So it's been a real fun game. I'm actually taking a lot longer to get through it than I thought because I've been trying everybody out, and I think, honestly, I hate to say it, but I think Tails has been the best all-around character for it.
Yeah, I've been mainly playing with Sonic, but I just recently started up again as Tails, and it seems like he's going to be a lot easier to manage.
Yeah.
I got stuck with Sonic on the Flying Battery Zone. I was at the final boss of it, and
right.
That I didn't really like how they did it, because you have to hit him specifically in the spikes, and it's so kind of just finicky to hit him.
Yeah, the problem with that was more when you're moving up vertically and when you're using the spin post to try to throw yourself into him, timing that right is a pain.
Yeah.
But, they did give every character a unique ability that kind of plays in the game. Sonic, for being more neutral, he's the only one who can use the special effects of most of the other shields, like the bounce effect of the regular shield, the fireball effect. The only regular shield effect everybody else can use is the automatic coin magnets for the lightning shield. So, but Sonic can do that. Tails can fly for a pretty good period of time, actually.
Yeah, he's almost overpowered since.
Kind of, but the trade-off is you can't really control how you're flying. You can control up, left, or right. When you want to go down, you've literally got to just let him drift down. And if you're trying to do a pixel-perfect timing thing, that makes it even harder.
Yeah, that's my biggest annoyance with Tails. I'll get used to it.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I think it was good for balance. What did you guys think? Well, the two of you over there who are just staring at us blankly that did get to watch. I know at least you did, Sheree. What did you think of it?
I think it definitely is a nice throwback to the old Sonic games. And I know that, our young Apple is absolutely in love with it.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, he's obsessed with doing the competitive mode with his brothers.
Yes.
And it's funny watching a 5-year-old beat a 16 and a 17-year-old.
Yes.
And he does it legit, too. They're not letting him win. He just understands the game better than they do, I guess. Have you seen it played yet, Savina?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I think you've been out of the house for a lot of the time since it's come out last week. So, but yeah, totally worthwhile game to pick up. So, speaking of pickups, we actually had a couple of really cool finds over the last couple of weeks. Out at the flea market actually last Sunday. Yeah, because we were taking Ivan home. So,
Yep.
Last Sunday, and I find some nice pieces of costume jewelry because I have two women in my life, and it's always great to have that stuff on standby.
For when he's in trouble.
An honest man is always in trouble. Anyway.
And then there's you.
Right. Hey. But no, and I look over and I notice this framed perfect condition Rockers poster from the old WWF days. And clearly a case of the lady not knowing what she had, because for, a $25 jewelry deal, I said, all right, we'll pay that if you'll throw that poster in. And she's like, sure. And I mean, it was framed in a sealed frame, so it wasn't even like a cheap frame where you had to worry about it coming up. I'm going to have to actually cut the cardboard out of this thing if I ever want to change its frame. Excellent condition poster. $100 poster that I got for nothing. So.
Yeah, it was a really good deal.
Right. Also picked up Castle Grayskull. Doesn't have all the pieces, but it's in really good condition. It's a great starter piece if you're trying to upgrade your base model, if you have all the pieces, or if you just want the castle and you don't really care if it's complete. And some strawberry shortcake stuff as well. So it's been a pretty good couple of weeks of picking up for the retro toy side. So.
Well, and we also found that Yu Yu Hakusho figure.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, but that went into your,
Yeah, for
that went into your private
Crumb.
collection,
That
didn't it?
did go into my private collection, and it is a possible cosplay for the future.
that'd be pretty cool.
That would be cool. I would love to cosplay as
I
Karuma.
was just saying, that'd be pretty easy. I mean, it's basically just a pink tracksuit, more or less, with hard shoulders, and then you just as the prop. Doing a proper prop weapon is going to be the hardest part of that, isn't it?
Either just a basic rose or trying to make a whip out of it would be a little bit fine.
Well,
whip.
and one of the things, didn't we discussed the possibility of looking at the Halloween store since it's almost that time of year,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
looking for something that would be a suitable,
Replacement or
yes,
substitute.
a suitable substitute.
Right. Or craft
Savers-
stores, even. I was thinking about
Savers always
Yeah.
has good stuff around
Right.
this time of year.
that. Yeah, they do.
So
I could be
It's not like
Kuwabara.
on the docket of certainty of when, but I definitely would like to do it at some point.
Right. Well, so that's going to be definitely an interesting cosplay. As far as stuff that entered private collection, yeah, there's that. Oh, another retail stuff. I picked up some of those little electric football games where the players vibrate and it's supposed to simulate a game. Yeah, those are always fun. Trying to find all the pieces for.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I really haven't picked up too much for the private collection recently because it's been difficult finding games that I already have.
You did pick up a couple of pops for your private collection.
Well, yeah, I did pick up the Rick and Morty. I finally have the Chase edition of the Meeseeks and the Weaponized Rick pops, so I have those. So I think the only Rick and Morty pop I'm missing, and I don't even think it's out yet, is the portal gun. So
That sounds about right. And then you're still looking for the Bob Ross pop.
There's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
pop specifically for the gun.
yes, they're making, just like they do vehicles sometimes, they have a portal gun pop coming out.
Or like the Sailor Moon Hot Topic exclusive that has
Rick and Morty portal
Luna
gun or
with
portal
her
gun?
bandages on.
Rick and Morty portal gun.
Oh,
Although,
because I was looking over that way for whatever reason, looking at the other pops that were over there. I think I was seeing one that looks like Shell from Portal.
nope, not even close.
Is that not it? Okay.
No. Nope. The only pops up there is you have the Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain, Roddy Piper, and the Bad Man Vegeta.
Which is hilarious.
Yes, it is. So yeah,
You
that's
are the bad man, Vegeta.
Yeah. So yes, that was a pretty good week for pickups for us. But jumping right into TV talk here from there, which we got to hurry up so we don't miss it, or we'll miss out to watch it online. But,
Right.
You know, we're 4 episodes now into Rick and Morty.
That
Of
sounds
the
right.
of the main season, I think it's actually 5.
Yeah.
4 episodes of the main season, not counting the one from April Fools. And tonight should be
Number 5.
technically episode 6.
Right.
So it's kind of
So what do you guys
It's kinda
think?
wonky.
So what are you guys thinking of this season so far? Because, I mean, they've had a couple missteps. Like the Mad Max episode didn't really do it for me.
it was a little simple.
The Saw episode was funny. Like the bits were funny, but it was you knew where it was going way too quickly.
Once it was revealed, yeah, because I was like,
Well, not even-
I didn't see it coming, what they were going to do with it until like they had the Rick show up on the screen. You know what I mean?
Well, oh yeah, I mean, I knew that was going to be the game, but I mean, like, you knew like the whole big thing at the end where it's like, oh, does he really love Morty? No, it's like this.
That was obvious. I was waiting
Right.
for that to become
Because
cool.
as soon as I watched the episode, I'm like, why are they spending so much time on the? I'm like, oh god, he's going to come on. He's going to be an important thing later for the
Noob.
dopey. Yeah, noob.
That was funny.
That was. I hope you get to be part of the team someday, noob.
Anyway,
You're just the special needs kid we do photo ops with.
yeah, that was a harsh joke.
Accurate.
True. But
Yeah, just the way Morty systematically takes down all of those
Challenges.
It was just great. How many neutron balls have you?
Too many, Rick. I was thinking the same joke.
Yeah.
That one was pretty good.
How
Pickle
many
Rick
is too many, though?
1.
1. Yeah.
Okay. But by
Uh,
Rick standards?
Pickle
Yeah.
Rick was pretty funny.
The Jerry episode was great.
Yeah, the Jerry episode was good, especially because
The beatdown that Jerry took from Rick, just like verbally, was really good too.
yeah,
Just calling him like just like a parasite, just using his pity.
right.
to-
The assassination of Jerry's character by Rick was really good, and then the ending was really good too, where he's just the classic nothing changes in a cartoon. Like, all right, Jerry, bye.
Yeah, and then defense grids initiate.
Yeah, definitely. Like that introductory scene of where they're at, where Rick and the guy kill each other.
My favorite thing about that whole episode, the Jerry episode, was looking on the TV guide for it that night and seeing what the listing for it was. Literally just says, "Beth is a terrible mom," or something, or something.
Beth
along those
struggles
lines.
with motherhood. Yes,
Right, and that's literally all it said. And I was
Right.
just like, I was dying at that, and that it definitely was true for that episode.
right.
She was doing some hoof sculpture with glue.
right, and just the fact that she makes Summer's problem worse, and yeah, and I love that the whole episode was orchestrated by Morty to get a day off, and he doesn't even get that.
Right.
He's like, I didn't want to have to deal with this. So what do you two think? This is a podcast. You're supposed to talk more. Come on.
I haven't been able to catch up on every episode because of, stuff.
Mm-hmm. That just sounds like a lack of effort on your part.
Stuff and things.
Right. What about you
8
over there,
hours
Zavina?
of homework.
You really
saying.
You really smart enough to do it all in one day. You gonna work that hard. I spread it all out for the little bit I did in college. It's true.
This is grad school. This is not regular college.
I know. What about you, Zavina? What do you think so far of the season?
I think the Jerry episode is definitely my favorite so far. I really enjoyed all the exchanges Jerry and Rick were having. They start out with an argument or belittling
Right.
or whatever, and then they kind of come to a place of understanding, and then they end up back in the same situation again.
Right. And the opening was nice because it was kind of reminiscent of the first episode where, you just have Morty sleeping in his bed and then Rick bursts in.
Right.
And you kind of have that moment again where he just bursts in and starts kidnapping Jerry. And he's like, I can make you, any pants I make, you're going to be 1,000 times better than the pants you have at home.
Also, just the very initial beginning where it's just showing Jerry's pitiful life.
Right. Just like, I mean, I said at the beginning of this, I don't know how long they're going to really go with this not married, or, him not with the family thing, but if they keep finding a way to make sadness funny, then I'm all for it.
Right.
Because they found a way to make crippling sadness of one person really funny, and that's all I care about. So anyway, speaking of crippling sadness, let's shift gears over to anime for a minute. And
Funny.
we live in the era of remakes, guys, and that's unavoidable, and it sucks for most part. But every now and then we get some things that are done well. I actually, and it's not in the show sheet, and I'm sorry, but I was reading a very interesting article today about one of the shows that has been rebooted and redone a lot when you really look at it, has managed to still stay good and stay relevant through every reincarnation. And, there's a couple that try and come close, like Power Rangers gets redone every couple of years because they have to find a new reason to cycle in teenagers. And by and large, it never really gets any bigger, but it never gets any, smaller either. They still sell a ton of toys. There's still a half aisle devoted to Power Rangers. But another one was Ninja Turtles. And that's true. I mean, they have a few that maybe aren't as good as the rest, but they definitely keep sort of moving upwards in quality, and they find a way to more or less make every reincarnation related to the last. So, and I was thinking about this and thinking about your love of anime over there, Sheree, and you talk about Sailor Moon Crystal and how it's a remake or a retelling of the story to be more manga faithful. What other ones would you want to see that happen to?
Well, and when you asked me about this, I really thought about it a lot. And of course, there are a couple that obviously come to mind that still fall under the magical girl vein. And one of them that I thought about that could possibly be done better, and not that it was done badly to begin with, but Cardcaptor Sakura was one that comes to mind that I would like to see some of the new animation come to some of the cards and see how some of that would look.
But do you think at this point, with all of the advanced animation techniques we saw in things like Yu-Gi-Oh!, do you think that uneducated people are going to see it as just, they're just doing a girl Yu-Gi-Oh!
I definitely think that's a risk, but I think at the same time, with all of the emphasis on card games and card anime and all of those things that have come, I don't necessarily think... I think it might actually have a better chance at a positive reception now.
Yeah, because
there's a there's an established mainstream market that it can if it's marketed correctly and done correctly, it can work itself into having a place in.
Also with Yu-Gi-Oh, a lot of its recent series have just not been as well received or as popular. It was never as well received as the original was, with how it came out with on Cartoon Network and the CW. Nowadays these are more the new forms of Yu-Gi-Oh are more or less kind of niche.
Let's duel on the back of motorbikes and let's keep making the main character progressively younger and more annoying. So that was my whole point. Is I kind of think, yes, you're right. The ingratiation of a story centered around magical cards has been there, and maybe taking it to a slightly more grounded and less annoying form might help it stick better.
Yeah.
So that's actually one I agree with. What's any thoughts over there, Savina?
I haven't watched anime in so long.
Yeah.
I remember watching Cardcaptor.
She's in the wrong house.
So I think with all the nostalgia of people of the millennial generation, it might be well received just as a throwback.
Yeah. And it could be really well received, or it can cut both ways, because there are people like myself who love and embrace Sailor Moon Crystal, but there are people who are like, no, I only like my old 90s anime version, and there's nothing wrong with the 90s anime version, and there's nothing
other than it's Sailor Moon.
Nothing wrong with the original Cardcaptor Sakura, but there will be people who will feel like you have to choose,
right?
And will
pick
not
your
be
side, and that's crap.
And in that same situation, I kind of feel like you kind of, on a different anime that got remade, you're kind of like that about Full Metal Alchemist and then Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Right.
You kind of, I know you haven't seen all of Brotherhood, but you kind of seem to be more interested in the original because that was the first one you saw, as opposed to the new one, I believe, right?
Well, no, it's more that there's so many more episodes to the new one that I just haven't seen them all. But I did enjoy the original one.
Well, they're actually
I don't
about
have
the same length, more or less. I think Brotherhood was about 60, whereas the original was probably a little closer to 50. But I mean, I don't know the exact number count, but that's definitely in this I guess discussion, a very famous example of remakes done right.
Yes.
Brotherhood gets so much praise for retelling the story with so much better animation and following the storyline.
Right. And
then you look at something like Dragon Ball Z Kai with its various dubs of it, all having different receptions, because you remember the original ones that were on
Cartoon Network, and even
for DBZ Kai specifically, that was on I think the CW
right
for a bit. And they weren't well received because they were dumbing down some of the terms and things. It wasn't accurate to the original script. But when you look at the recent Toonami uncut version of Kai, it is very faithful to the original and fixes a lot of mistakes. And they've done very well with the voice work. So between Kai uncut and Super now, it's kind of taking Dragon Ball into a new step. Where they're swearing occasionally without making it feel edgy or stupid. It's characters that would make sense to swear, like Vegeta, obviously.
Right,
he'll throw a
forced.
bastard in there occasionally or something.
Right, and they did that, and they actually did that in the original Dragon Ball Z too. If you remember watching it, back in the day, Sheree, they snuck a few of the FCC appropriate, but not necessarily appropriate for kids show languages in there. But so we got through Cardcaptor Sakura, and what else were you talking about?
Well, the other one closer in that realm I thought about, and this is one that probably nobody else is going to be familiar with, but I would like to see a remake and a remastering of Utena Revolutionary Girl.
Right. But that was done, sorry to interrupt, but that was done by some of the same people involved with Sailor Moon, right?
It was done by some of the same people involved with Sailor Moon, and also its story has its basis in a kind of an offshoot idea that was had about Uranus and Neptune. And then it became, instead of becoming about Uranus and Neptune, they took it and took the seed of that idea and took it and made it into Utena. But I think part of that for me is that I think that if it were something that that was premiered today, it would be a lot better received by the anime culture than it was originally, because it's kind of become one of those lesser known niche animes because it is such an unusual storyline. It didn't get any kind of mainstream releases.
Well, yeah.
And it had like such a
network.
unique
Right, because
world style.
To look at it from a standpoint of a non-anime fan, what we know about anime, even as a non-fan, is they have no problem playing around with the swapping of genders. Like in original American release for Sailor Moon, there were characters who would be in their quote-unquote civilian form male, who when they, activated their power would turn female. That's always kind of been okay, but the difference, as I always perceived it for Utena, was you had a character attempting to follow a path that was not meant for her gender and not necessarily assuaging her gender either. She wasn't saying, "Oh, I want to be a boy." She wanted to be a prince, but it wasn't
but
in
she
that.
Definitely wanted to be acknowledged as a female.
Right.
Like, she wasn't trying to be a male. She wasn't hiding her gender or anything. In the anime, when you're not talking about the movie that was made, her hair is long.
Right. She's definitely very feminized in the role, even though. So, and I don't mean to demean what the character may be going through, but in a very weird way, she was a person. It was almost like Tilda Swinton in the role of the Ancient One. It wasn't just, oh, here's Tilda Swinton playing a guy. It's Tilda Swinton playing this role that was known for being done by a guy, but it's still her.
Right, because Utena wants to be a prince, but she doesn't want to be a guy.
Right.
She doesn't want... I mean, she wears a take on a boy's uniform, but she doesn't, she doesn't want to date girls.
Right.
She makes it very clear that she is just a normal girl and she just wants a normal boy. But at the same time, she wants to be a prince who rescues the princess.
Right.
So she's got all these conflicting ideas, and it becomes a very complex and unusual story as it develops. But I think that it would be more well received in today's society, today's world, than it was originally.
Right. There's such an emphasis on just like acceptance and just like
equality, gender fluidness.
Right.
But now let me
if done right, it could very well.
Let me ask you this: are you worried that to make it fit a modern audience, they would fudge that a little bit and they would add a layer of gender dysphoria to her? Do you think they would make her to make it fit with a modern crowd? Do you think they would make her be this girl who wants to be a boy, or add a transgender element to it just to make it more palatable to people? Because to me, that would destroy the essence of the character.
I would like to say no, but I mean, of course you don't know, depending on who's in charge of the remake.
But let's put it in the context of they do that. They say, here's everything about the story's the same, except Utena wants to be a boy. She doesn't just want to be a prince, she wants to be a boy. Do you think that takes away from the character enough to make it not worth doing?
I do think it risks damaging the core of the character, because part of the core of the character is her conflict in the fact that she has this idea and presents this idea that she wants to be a noble prince. She stands high for her morals. She's willing to go to untold lengths to defend them, but she at the same time says things like, I'm just a normal girl who just wants a normal boy.
Yep. And we're running a little ahead on time on this, so go ahead and just kind of get your third one out there, and we'll get through this.
My third one actually was probably one you guys would want to talk about more.
Well, that's fine.
I would like to see the Kurama maybe inspired, but I would like to see a redoing of Yu Yu Hakusho.
I don't know, because they just recently did that with Ghost Files.
Yeah, but Sailor Moon, Crystal.
Are you concerned with them doing the stories better, or because the one thing one of the few animes I really love and like to watch is Poltergeist Report, and that's because for all of the very clearly of its time art style, and the main bad guy may as well just be Billy Idol as a demon. It was because it was done. I can't remember exactly when, but it was done in the late '80s, early '90s. look, at least in style. Maybe not. Maybe that's not the year it came out. I can't remember.
It definitely was the 90s because we watched it for the first time in high school.
Well, yes, but that doesn't mean that in Japan it wasn't done in like 89.
That's true.
A lot of their stuff, when we get it in the mid 90s, has been out for years over there.
Yeah, I think it was early 90s myself.
But
I recently rewatched Yu Yu Hakusho through Toonami Aftermath and watched it all the way through before and finished it shortly before I started work. I very much enjoyed it, and actually that one was on my list as well too. You know, it was very good at its time, and I think it'd be even cooler to see some of the updated things it could do.
Yeah, for today, for it to be redone today, for this one is less about faithfulness to any storytelling and more about the visual aesthetic potential.
well, that
And like it had a couple, like many anime, you know, Yu Yu Hakusho was definitely prone to have those occasional episodes with just the weird animation that was out there.
Yeah.
Like the Hiei fight with the Shadow Dragon.
Right, but that happened in America with like even our animated series like Batman, because most people don't realize the original Batman animated series wasn't animated in America. That was actually animated in Japan for the first couple seasons. Then to save money, they shipped it to Korea, and you can tell.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
By the time Robin's an adult in that series, you can tell how much the animation dropped off. But when Joker started having just gray skin and black eyes, that's about the mark. But yeah, and for me, Yu Yu Hakusho, the thing it would need would be to be more grounded in a modern world, because it definitely, like I said, when you watch like Poltergeist Report or you watch some of the standalone episode movies,
Right.
they're very much locked in their time. It's almost like going back and watching the first season of Red Dwarf.
Well, and I will say that that's one thing that they have done with the reboot of Sailor Moon Crystal is you can see there is the occasional use of a cell phone that is not, it's not
In the original?
Yeah, it's more of a modern era. It looks more like a smartphone. You have Ami in one episode is using like what's clearly supposed to be a take on an iPad, things like that. So they did do some of that modernization with the technology and things. So
I think
that's helpful. It helps bring it into that modern context, but it didn't. They didn't change so much that it changed the core of the show.
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, so, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but first of all, we're losing Zavina over there. I think she's zoning out because she's not the biggest anime fan, and also, we're kind of over the time I wanted to put into this, but good topics, and, if you're listening to this and you see us share it on Facebook or whatever, comment for what you'd like to see and why, and maybe we'll kind of read back some of your comments next time, but let's shifting gears from topics for a moment back to a couple of the news things. First of all, this was just kind of cool. We won't have to take too long on it, but there's going to be a SNES-style 3DS coming out. Obviously, with them doing the SNES throwback system, then it only makes sense that they do a skin. And the box art looks really cool. I've seen that on IGN. Looks nice. I mean, it's basically just the gray style, and then when you're looking at it all the way open, it looks like the actually it looks like the Model 2 Super Famicom style Super Nintendo. So we'll have to see if that's just that region version or if they're going to do the other version. And then also, we finally got a lot more of the in-game detail about WWE 2K18. And it's funny because years ago I had said that you'll know when they're out of WWE ideas for games when they finally increase the number of players you can have in the ring at one time. Because pretty much going all the way back to like SmackDown 2, with the exception of one game that wasn't even in the SmackDown series, that you've been stuck at 6 players, 3 on each side, or 6 people in the ring at once for a Royal Rumble. They're finally increasing it to 8, so you can actually have 4-on-4 Survivor Series matches and stuff. It looks like they're really starting to co-opt things they do in 2K's other sports titles for their career mode, like the new My Player experience, which is supposed to have fighting styles and a different progression system, and they also kind of intimate that there's going to be a lot of online interaction, even with just the single-player career mode. Some other things is they're finally updating the god-awful commentary. Like, I remember back in the day when we were so excited about games that could have real sound, because, it's like, oh my god, for wrestling fans, it's like, oh my god, we're going to get to hear Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler. And to be fair, the first couple of games to really feature that in a home console game, because they had a little bit in like arcade games, like WrestleMania arcade game would have random voice clips from Jerry Lawler and Vince McMahon, but they weren't really interacting. They weren't trying to be commentary. It was literally like NBA Jam, where if you uppercutted somebody, Vince would go boom, shaka, nothing special.
Yeah, I was going to mention that for this recent game, it feels like many of the voice lines were very lazily brought over. That's always been a thing, but it always seemed like it was a little bit updated or changed. This one felt very
this last
much
game
like
was just like they gave up and just said,
here's the very same lines again.
Yeah, the clip linking to that's supposed to make it feel more like a conversation just fails half the time.
Yeah.
So one commentator will say something, and then the response line that's supposed to come from another is just something completely different. Interrupts because of moves just became more frequent with the phonetic increase of the game. So they are saying, though, that they're doing new commentary team recordings with Michael Cole, Byron Saxton, Death of All Fun.
Also, if I could take a quick second to jump back to our last bit, about the SNES 3DS. Apparently, there's no North American version announced yet, and that's why it looks like a Famicom, because it's the Japanese version.
There will be.
No, yeah, most likely. I'm just saying, as far as why it looked like a Famicom, it's because it's the Japanese version.
Well, of course.
Yeah. Anyway.
So we'll see. I mean, we got October's coming really fast. That's when new WWE games drop, and hopefully the progression in my career, because I've been stuck on a certain rank in my career for the current generation game for a while, and I've followed all the stats. I've changed my character's t-shirt design every couple of weeks, and tried to have entertaining certain star level matches and everything, and it's such an unrealistic slog, which goes back to the biggest problem wrestling games will always have. They're presenting a work, which is wrestling, in a totally shoot environment. Like in the world according to Inside Wrestling games, you're not a performer going out and expected to follow a storyline, but yet you are, which sounds weird when you say it like that, but that's because in the wrestling game your goal is to always win. In the game, in the show, well, you may lose matches, you may get disqualified. And they tried to do a little bit of that with authority and Paul Heyman things you're supposed to do. And some of them would be, well, get yourself DQ'd, or, let this guy get a limb all the way down to a certain damage color, but then still win. But there wasn't really a lot of payoff for that, so it got easy to ignore. Hopefully they eventually fix the storylines where it branches off and winning isn't always the goal, because to go down a different branch of the storyline, you need to lose at this match or this pay-per-view and everything else. So, just wanted to kind of throw that out there because I know wrestling fans listen. And don't worry, in the last bit, I'm gonna have a lot of wrestling talks. Probably where I'll lose everyone else, but we haven't heard from Savannah much, and that's because her bit's up next. And this is definitely something worth listening to, because I think everyone here is a fan of BoJack Horseman.
Yep,
that's the one show I've not checked out yet.
Well, that's why we make you sleep outside.
And it's weird because I haven't seen you guys watch it before. So
we blitzed it out in our room. We were all hanging out, me, Savannah, and Cherie were all in our room and watching it. And
so it's not one that I'm not necessarily not interested in. It's just
you should watch it. You should watch it.
I haven't gotten the chance to watch it because usually a lot of these shows you'll have one down here and I'll catch them from my room.
Everything Rick and Morty has in terms of psychological or philosophical humor, BoJack Horseman has in emotional realism. For all the out there-ness of the characters. I mean, come on, they had a character who was 3 kids in a trench coat that was able to be on the show for, in its world time, months, dating one of the characters, and the only one who was it's 3 kids in a coat was BoJack himself. But then they still managed to turn that character into an emotional moment dealing with stuff. So the show is really good at dealing with emotions, and
it totally is. And
we finally got the 3rd season trailer or 4th?
4th season.
Sorry, 4th season. Wow. It's Netflix shows, guys. I never pay attention to what season it is. It's just, new episode's good. Anyway, so...
And they're over.
Yeah, I know. That's the one thing I'll give Amazon, technically, or not Amazon, but Hulu, or one of them, whichever one that does their new shows week to week. They don't let them all out at once. That's kind of nice because then it forces you to pace yourself. Because if not, I'll literally sit there all night and be next episode.
But some of us like binge watching.
I know. They should give you the option. You should be you can set it now. We know you don't have any willpower. We know you suck. So do you want this? Do you want this one all at once, or do you want to wait?
That would be an interesting thing to give you an option on.
Right, and then to enforce it, you have to pay to undo it.
That'd be horrible.
Like, $10 and we'll undo your decision to wait week to week for this show.
Do you say that, Savina, because you want to have willpower and not always do?
No, just because I would never choose that option in the first place. I would just binge watch.
Right. Well, anyway, we've all watched the trailer, but why don't you go ahead, Savina, and give us a breakdown of it from your point of view. What did you really think? Where do you think they're going this next season?
Okay, so we have to remember at the end of last season, we were left off with Bojack had lost pretty much everyone that even vaguely cared about him.
Right, because if I want to interject, one thing that I don't know if everybody notices about the show, but for a show that isn't afraid to talk about everything it talks about, there's a surprisingly little amount of cursing, and they limit themselves to saying the F word once a season, and it's always used as the mark that Bojack has fully destroyed a relationship. So it was the deer, I can't think of her name now, that was his friend. Penny, that's right. Todd did it at the end of last season. And then there was somebody Herb in the first season. So, and that's an important mark that Todd did it in the last season, but he's definitely in this trailer, right?
Yeah, he's in the trailer, but he's not shown interacting with anyone. Right. The whole trailer is just Diane leaving a voicemail for Bojack, whose voicemail ends up being full at the end. And just kind of, it seems like all the characters have gone their separate ways. There's, it's showing just like their separate lives. Todd seems to still be up to like random adventures. Mr. Peanut Butter's running for governor. Yeah. Which is kind of surprising because I didn't expect Bojack to get too political, so I wonder what kind of take they're gonna have on that.
The thing I picked up from the trailer at that point is it's definitely looking like that's going to be the catalyst if I had to take a guess to something big. But I want you to finish your trailer description first, but I wanted to kind of put that in there so that I knew to come back to it. So finish your synopsis.
And then it showed Bojack's assumed daughter that was brought up in the last season. And then it shows Bojack driving to a cabin like the one he'd had in the Bad Trip episode. Where he had stayed at and grown old and had a happy family and stuff. It looked really similar to that, which would possibly be in Maine. So that might be where Bojack is. We did leave him, we left off, he was just driving through the desert, gonna kill himself.
Right, he started to drive off a cliff, and then, now, Wikipedia listed it in their episode recap as him finding a reservation of still more naturalistic horses, which I could see making sense because, you had Mr. Peanut Butter taking Diane up to where he was from, which was very much all centered around sort of what it would be like in a community of all sentient dogs. So I could kind of see there being a place that's centered around just sentient horses, so that could be interesting to see. And and I already forgot the big mark. What did I interrupt you at before?
That you felt like Mr. Peanut Butter's running.
Oh yeah. I know. Come on. I had to give Tally a chance to act like Tally. But anyway, I have no idea what's going on. No, all right, that was me. I'll stop. But anyway, yeah. They show him growling at Diane in like one of the little quick cuts in there. So it's like I'm wondering if that whole thing is going to be the catalyst for Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter splitting up. And if it's going to be because there's leftover issues over the abortion last season. And then they also intimated Caroline having a family with the mouse guy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
the cat and the mouse.
Yeah, I know. So, and then the other interesting thing is for Todd destroying his relationship with Bojack, he seems to be the first one to interact with Bojack's potential daughter. And you can't shake your head, honey. It's a podcast. You got to talk.
Yeah.
So that shows that he's at least still around Bojack's house, probably still living on his couch.
Possibly.
Right. So it's very interesting to see where that ties up at. I'm hoping I said this at the end of last season when it was revealed. The child I never knew about story, when it's done in any show, or we need to add a kid, the Cosby Kid effect, is never really worked. So it really depends on how they get out of it.
It definitely depends on how they handle the story. But one of the things I wanted to say is, one of the interesting things you can theorize, about the Mr. Peanut Butter and Diane situation, with Mr. Peanut Butter running for office. You mentioned the abortion, them fighting about him possibly still being angry about it. It may or may not be him still having, anger about it, but something like that, depending on what kind of platform and what, how they proceed with his political career. I put political in air quotes here because he is Mr. Peanut Butter.
Right, and he's definitely going to be the George W. style, where he's going to be controlled by people in his employ more than thinking on his own.
Could it be possible that some of that growling and anger comes from that because they had kind of kept all of that quiet, and the way that they did that with the pop star
Aquafina.
Yes. If the way that they did all that, if all of that comes out,
and it damages his poll numbers,
it could damage his numbers and his chances of being elected.
Right, or she does, or just Diane being Diane, she goes against his platform and doesn't stand by him, and he starts getting attacked on that. There's definitely that could be interesting, and I think the writers of this show have shown they have the chops to do delicate situations better than, most shows that would fall under this sort of umbrella of type. So it should be an interesting ride to see where we go from here. So kind of to wrap it up, Savina, what are you hoping to get out of season 4?
I'm not hoping to find happiness with Bojack, because I think that's kind of the whole point of the show, is that he'll never really find happiness.
Right. And that they're not afraid of that. That's sort of been what they've built all 3 of the first seasons around, is he is a guy who's never going to really know what makes him happy. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so it'll just be Bojack exploring different facets of his life, of his personality, of his character. And then hopefully the characters will come back together and become intertwined in each other's lives some more.
But I don't know. You see, to me, I kind of like the idea of some of them eventually going off and doing other things, because that's sort of been one of the things this show's had the guts to do others haven't. I mean, you watch its opening credits, and, Wanda came in and is gone, and people involved with Secretariat, a lot of them have disappeared like that. That director whose last appearance was, for a few seconds, interlaced into different points of the Undersea episode. There's a lot of realism in just something happening where someone is out of your life. Penny being out of his life for good. And I'm not saying that, we need everybody to be gone, but I really like to see how well they could keep up, like Todd not directly interacting with Bojack and attempting to be his friend, or if at the end of the next season, Princess Caroline actually does the mom thing and just sort of rides off to be a mom. I'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah.
What about you, Fireheart?
Well, like I said, I haven't seen the show, so...
All right, thank you for your opinion. just try to keep you guys talking on here, because, Lord, you have to interject. You don't necessarily have anything to say. He's just he's staring blankly at something about Russian mail order brides. I'm like, no, not on my internet. They monitor that stuff now. I have the VPN in place. But anyway, all right. Enough of that.
What did you get them to monitor us then?
Anyway. Okay, so I said earlier we'd be getting into some big WWE notes. We just had SummerSlam and TakeOver Brooklyn 3 and a couple big things. The big thing to come out of NXT was Asuka's shoulder injury. And I had wrote this whole thing about what I think they should have done. Because, I realize championship belts or reigns in a wrestling show is a prop. But it's the most important prop. You're sort of hinging everything in a well-run, vaguely realistic promotion. Everything should center around whatever division you're in's championship. And this is a person who's held her title for over 500 days. And has been undefeated for longer. She's been undefeated on television for 2 years.
Because she's awesome and awesome.
Well, she suffered a broken collarbone.
Ouch.
Damn.
Now, you got to realize on NXT they had a couple of weeks of shows in the can. There was things they could have done out of it. And unfortunately, in real life, what came to pass is she relinquished the title, which was dumb because you basically threw that 500-plus day reign away. And her announcement is part of the reason she relinquished was to heal up because she's negotiating with Raw and SmackDown. With basically saying, oh yeah, we're just going to move her to the main roster now. So you just took a big, big, big shot on the validity of NXT, which is essentially running as its own third brand. And that was a mistake. What I would have thought they should have did is they should have had like a one-night tournament, something, do it at a house show, and declare Ember Moon the interim champion. And make it very clear that she's an interim champion. And then you make a big deal about when Asuka comes back, and you say, okay, here's the deal. They're going to unify these titles, and it's either Ember wins and her reign started from the day she won the interim title, or Asuka wins and her reign is counted through the injury because she stayed champion. Just because that was way too big of a streak point to just give away, and it feels
That
like
was
they
a
just
huge
gave it away.
streak.
And I'm worried about now. They could always do the swerve of she wanted it to be a big surprise, and she's back, and wow, she won the belt, she never lost again, and everything else. But there's still just too many ways where they've lost the ability to keep that record going, and it just feels like they lost a chance to really make something special out of it. So that's the big thing out of NXT, other than obviously Bobby Roode debuted on SmackDown, and there's big talk that Author of Pain are moving up to the main roster, so there's some holes that definitely need to be filled. Although they had Adam Cole, they have Red Dragon and Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly joining, and the damn...
Is that Bobby Fish?
Yes, I know. Is that Bob Fish? That stupid... Anybody who knows Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and watched last year's Bola when they were doing the very, very dumb pretending that Red Dragon were Dalton Castle's boys and Chuck Taylor having fun with it every time the mask would move off his face. Bear in mind, Bobby Fish has a giant fish tattoo on his back, and these guys wrestle in just trunks when they're opposing as Dalton Castle's boys, so nothing hiding the tattoo at all. So it's clear who they are. It was done for a gimmick haha moment that worked. But you had Chuck Taylor on commentary going, every time it looked like the mask was going to move, is that Bob Fish? So as soon as he debuted and I watched the replay of it, that's the first thing that came out of my mouth, even though I knew it was, is that Bob Fish?
And he says that around the house all the time now.
Right, that's become my claim for any moment that's supposed to be fake shocking. Is like, is that Bob Fish? When it's like, what, is this supposed to be this? But that should be interesting to see. And of course, Adam Cole in WWE is always a good thing as long as, like usual, they don't screw it up, which they probably will. The only big things coming out of Raw is I really want to see the Rollins Ambrose thing end in a heel turn. And either one could benefit from a heel turn. So, honestly, I think it would make more sense for Ambrose to do it and to make this whole thing a big thing about payback for Rollins destroying the Shield a couple years back. But they could also use it as Rollins being like, haha, I outsmarted you again. I got what I needed from you, and I'm done. And then he's heel again. And Rollins works far better as a top heel, so that'd be interesting to see. And then, of course, Sasha Banks, she won the belt because she was a last-minute replacement because Bayley got injured. Bayley isn't getting over on the main roster, especially with Banks as a babyface. So I think before Bayley comes back, Banks needs to turn heel. And then they can have a proper rivalry that the fans would care about again. And that would get Bayley back on the babyface side. And then over on SmackDown, the big thing I had to complain about is stop trying to make Jinder Mahal a thing. They had him beat Nakamura.
I heard you say that from upstairs the other day.
Right, because they had him not only beat Shinsuke Nakamura, they had him win
That's just wrong.
with the same way he won his last title match. Literally the exact same ending of Bollywood Boys Interfere. That sets me up to hit my finisher, which they're trying to make this devastating move, and it's not.
What's his move again?
Queen Pin. I don't even know. Who? What now?
I was wondering what his move was again.
Basically, it's a sleeper hold slam.
Yeah.
So, it's... Yeah, we've lost Savannah. She's over there taking selfies, probably like, I'm bored. Get me off this thing. He's talking about wrestling again. I didn't sign up for this. There's supposed to be Doctor Who talk, damn it.
She got her Bojack talk.
I know. There's nothing going...
talk about Bojack. I'm happy.
Yeah. But yeah, and that's the big thing. And they really need to do something to get Nakamura back on track because the money match is Nakamura versus AJ Styles, whether it's for the U.S. belt, the world belt, or just having them go at it. And I think that is the plan. I think we're going to see that happen around WrestleMania, but for it to carry the impact it should, they really need to get Nakamura back more, better position in the fans' eyes to be closer to the main event. And I have no idea what the deal with Rusev is. You know, reports are his basically squash match to Orton was to get Orton's credibility back after taking so many losses to Mahal, and that it's supposed to light the booking going forward is going to be that it's supposed to light a fire under Rusev to make him act like the big monster he used to be. But then he posts cryptic tweets about thanking everybody in the WWE, almost like an exit tweet, and there's a lot of rumors going around him and Lana asked for their release, so I'm hoping that as of the time this airing, more information will be out, and I really don't want to see Rusev out of WWE, but I really don't think they're ever going to use him properly. And being married to Lana in real life is going to hurt him because they're getting engaged and being public about it screwed up months worth of planned storylines. And Lana's never fully been out of the doghouse for that. So
yeah.
So it's stop hitting your mic stand, Fireheart.
Sorry.
Jesus.
No, this is why we make him sleep outside.
Right. Sitting there playing with the power brick to his notebook, hitting his mic stand, and he's just absentmindedly doing it. Jesus Christ. This is the kind of operation I run here.
You're welcome.
Yeah, really.
Back on the Nakamura subject, hasn't it basically turned into where he's basically just a stepping stone for people to try to get them over, and half the time it fails? Not
yet. It's more like I think that he isn't adjusting well to the main roster, because the problem with the main roster is it's not like NXT. They can't do like they did on NXT where one whole match was nothing but one match. Or one whole show, I mean. For Finn Balor's formal exit from NXT, he had a 45-minute match with Shinsuke Nakamura. That was the whole show.
Yeah.
Like, other than
awesome
commercial breaks and interviews, and that was it. Their match.
Which
you can't do that on SmackDown Live or Monday Night Raw. There's just too many major things they have to keep going for the sake of star power and advertisement and everything else. So I don't think he does well in a short match environment. It really showed with Dolph Ziggler. The match up to that point with Mahal was good, but again, it was another short match, so a lot of what Nakamura uses to build up crowd excitement got cut out, and therefore a lot of his big spots just didn't have the same impact. So I think once he adjusts to the main roster style and he sort of better trims his act down to accommodate that, he'll be better in the ring. But I don't think they're ever gonna. They would not be able to keep him, and they need him with Hideo Itami failing and floundering in NXT. They need him to be their major Asian presence on the male side. So right. I don't think he'll ever be used quite that badly, but I think it's going to be a slower road to the true main event than it should have been, and that's really sad.
Name him like whatever.
Yeah, right. Like what culture said they didn't name him like Hayabusa Nintendo or make him a comedy character. They're
Nintendo Mitsubishi or
right,
whatever.
Right. Which they probably 2-3 years ago. That's probably what they would have did if it wasn't for Triple H really stepping up and saying no, we need to capitalize on these guys' names. Although there's been a rumor that that's going to slowly fade out, but I don't know because we had 3 people from the Indies debut under their name and not some new name. You had Kyle O'Reilly, Bob Fish, and Adam Cole, and they even let Adam Cole do the Adam Cole baby thing. So, maybe they're smart in realizing, hey, if this is what got them over,
right? If they have
we can
something
make money
established.
On it. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand why it was that way for years. I mean, in a day when people were changing the companies a lot more frequently, you really wanted whatever they were doing with you to be something you could wholly own and potentially use other places. The wrestling world's not really structured that way anymore.
No, that's true.
So
it's changed a lot.
Right. So it doesn't really matter because so many wrestlers have won court cases about keeping their name or, a gimmick thing that it's just like, you know what? They're going to take whatever we give them anyway. So why don't we save what we come up with for guys we know we're going to have long term, and we'll let these indie guys keep trying to get over with what got them here, and if it works, we're going to make money, and if it doesn't, they're going to go away, and we don't lose anything.
Right. Well, and for me, Nakamura, debut on the main roster, I was so excited, and then I've been so unimpressed and underwhelmed since he's gotten there.
Right. And it really just comes down to a matter of how he's been booked, and it's not been good. And hopefully it'll get better. But we are hitting the end of our hour, so I just want to thank you all for listening. And hopefully, like I said, Nakamura and a lot of things on SmackDown Live will get better, because when this whole brand split thing started, they came out of the gate swinging, and now they're struggling to play catch up, and that's just not right. So anyway, from Thursday Night Gaming, I'm Kid Thunder DJ.
R47.
Zavina.
Shreve on Delirious.
All right, have a good night, guys. Thank you.